Welcome to another DEPT Talk live from our office in Amsterdam. Today we have Valentijn and myself, Erwin, to run you through some of our thoughts on recovery. Again, welcome. Today's reality over the last weeks was quite extreme. We've had many things coming in our direction that we did not anticipate. And both Valentijn and myself, we looked in the mirror and we realized that we've been spending a lot of time on perhaps the wrong things. We've been focusing on a lot of internal processes. We've been focusing on meetings. We've been focusing on our Zoom background and getting adjusted to our working from home environment. Both Valentijn and myself, we should be talking about our clients and the clients of our clients. So today, our DEPT Talk Live, we want to make this your wake-up call of making sure that you're putting your time, efforts, and energy in the right topics. And even though we've been slowly adapting to this new reality, we believe it is time to get ahead of the curve, and instead of being reactive, we should start becoming more proactive in this situation. One small disclaimer is that today we will not be presenting any scientific frameworks. We will not make any world-changing announcements, but we want to share with you our perspective and our simple observations on what we've been doing for the last few weeks and what we think has been helping clients succeed. The discussion is more about when things go back to normal, and when is when. Right now, this is where we are today. We think, and science and research has shown that going back to normal will take maybe even years before we go really back to normal. We see countries slowly opening up their lockdown. We see, many companies working on a vaccine. But when are we really back to normal? That is a question that remains unknown, and that is something that we think companies should adapt to. Recovery.
Yeah, so it's not about recovery as the way we know it. Everyone's been talking to when can we go back to normal again. The normal we've been used to, the normal we know from the past. That's what recovery is. And actually, in our opinion, you can forget about total recovery. Things will likely not go back to the way we used to. We've grown accustomed to sitting fairly close to each other, touching each other. We've been accustomed to be doing business the way we used to for many, many, many years. Things are changing rapidly now due to circumstances, and most likely things will not go back to the way they were. So it's not about recovery, it's about losing old habits and finding new needs. What can you forget from what you've known, and how can you adapt to this new normal? And when we thought about it, it's basically about a new P. We all know price, promotion, and the 24 other Ps that have been invented since the 4 original ones. And in our opinion, it's all about the new P. And this P is perspective. What has changed dramatically is the perspective we're in and the way we look at things. And it's about many things. It's about our perspective on work. Just for me today, this is the first time I'm in the office in 5-6 weeks? It's the first time I was in tram. It's the first time I was on a train. It was the first time I was amongst people other than my relatives. So my perspective on things has really changed. I now take a cart which has been cleaned by someone in the supermarket. My perspective on talking to my relatives has changed. My perspective on schools has changed. I have 3 children, 2 of which have been homeschooled. This has totally changed my perspective on school. Not only because I home teach, but also because I realized I forgot most things I knew. Even our perspective on stupid, simple things like toilet paper has totally changed. I mean, no one ever thought about toilet paper unless you were out of it. And now all of a sudden we were running towards the shops and getting a lot of it to make sure we have plenty for whenever everything was out. So basically our perspective on everything has changed. And this includes companies, this includes products, this includes services, and for companies and businesses, the consumer perspective has changed. And it's really funny because up to, I think, 3 months ago, we didn't count on our government. We thought we had to be self-reliant. Only the people that voted for this man relied on him, and the rest thought he was, a politician with everything that comes with it. And now we tune into his press conference, and not because we care about everything he said, but mostly because what we want from him, what we expect from him is a perspective. What can happen? What can I do? What will I do? What can change? What will change from today to tomorrow? So perspective is like the most important thing. What does that mean for businesses? And what does that mean for the way we communicate with our customers? Basically, the key question we have to ask ourselves is, how has the perspective of our customer changed? And this is a campaign that's running now. It's from Chanel. It's a Mother's Day campaign. It's beautiful. It's hand-drawn. You can see it's drawn by a kid. Actually, this campaign was launched last year. And last year, when I looked at it, I thought, that's nice. It's daring for a A-list brand. It's new. It stands out. It ties in nicely with the thought of Mother's Day. And just a week ago, I saw it. And then I thought, that's interesting. This advertising agency that's probably not able to produce a really beautiful ad chose to do this. And then I realized I already saw it. So even my perspective, even though I already saw the ad, has changed because of my new reality. I work for an advertising agency. Mm-hmm. And I looked at it differently. So if something as small as this is impacted, then everything is impacted. So the key question is, how has the perspective of our customer changed? And basically the key question is, what do they need? What do they actually want? And how can I, as a company, contribute to this need? And if you ask yourself this question, there's one thing we would like to give you, that if you want to thrive and if you want to be able to work with these changes, you have to be like water. You have to be able to adapt and change and move and be agile and all those other things we were talking about months and years in the past. But now is the time you really have to use it. And you can. And we have a couple of examples we thought were interesting to discuss, which relate to this changing perspective and also about being like water and changing and still being relevant.
Yeah. So this is a good example of a restaurant in Amsterdam. And a few months ago, this could have been seen as hip. It looks nice. They basically put up some glass houses, but this basically opened up this restaurant for business, where this sector was shut down completely. They are putting their business in such a perspective that it is safe for you as a visitor to go have dinner there with two people sitting in a glass cubicle. People have been stuck at home, so the need was there for their customers to get out and have dinner, and now they can. So this was a good example of entrepreneurship, where they basically bent the rules of having a shutdown sector where they opened up their business. This is another one from Gazelle. This is a company that has relied on their retail sector, which obviously has been shut down tremendously. The clients still want to ride a bike, especially in the Netherlands, but we also see articles popping up where other countries are expanding their bike lanes because people actually like living in a less polluted city. They've been able to basically hack the direct-to-consumer challenge that not just Gazelle, many companies and big brands struggle with. Do I rely on my partner network? Do I go directly to consumers? They've been turning this around in a matter of a few weeks, where they have been able to deliver your bike for free at home. So you could still fulfill that need of your clients of riding a bike. This is a good example of a company, being like water, adjusting to the current setup, and breaking maybe some old habits they've been dealing with for many, many, many years.
This is another one that's interesting. This is a hamburger company. People working there, obviously the restaurant closed, but people flipping burgers are not used to working from computers. People waiting tables are not used to working from behind a computer like we are. Yet when the company's closed, for them the company culture is super important. But when all restaurants are closed, people go home and you lose them. So you're not in touch with them anymore. So what they did is they super rapidly launched a platform where all employees could go to, and everyone enlisted and participated, and they opened up the communication channels with them. They also gave them perspective, because what the people wanted most is, when can I go back to work? And instead of getting a newsletter like once a week, or a call, or you have to reach out to the managers, you now could talk to them, communicate with them on a constant basis. So even though this need for this specific company was never there to have such a communication platform, it now is. And they quickly changed because they understood what perspective their employees needed. And they created it, they went with it, they still have happy employees. And when they will reopen, the people will feel empowered because they felt part of the journey they were on, and will be much happier workers than people sitting at home for 3 months, getting a call, and then coming back into the office and thinking, well, that's it. So you have to think of the perspective. What do these people actually need, and how can I help them?
Another restaurant or service sector example. This is actually a local restaurant in the town I live, and they obviously had to shut down for obvious reasons. So what they did, they created packages for their clients to pick up in the restaurant. You had to schedule a pickup time, so there were not too many people in the store. You had to leave your phone number. And the chef, who we can see here, they recorded videos. They would WhatsApp that to you. So you have all the ingredients. They're prepared to, let's say, 80-85%. And you have to create this, close to a Michelin star type of dish yourself to finish it, do the finishing touches and whatnot. So you could still have the kind of a restaurant experience in your home. Learn how to cook. And what I like about this is that on the right side, you see some images of the dishes. And this was made by a friend of mine, actually, who is absolutely unable to cook whatsoever. But he still managed to pull this out and create some really nice looking dishes. So the whole experience was for him to really treat him and his girlfriend and their newborn baby, to celebrate something, have a good, almost have a diner experience in your house. So I like the fact that this was a very traditional restaurant. They purchased a relatively cheap camera. They started shooting the videos, and they have this whole new setup. They're sold out. So that's a good example of you will not recover your entire revenue stream from having an actual restaurant, but still they managed to keep things going, keep personnel in, keep them trained, and engage with a client base that when things go back up again, they will visit your restaurant. So I think this is a very good example on an agile entrepreneurial mindset in a very traditional sector.
This one's also interesting. I have children. Like I said, they were homeschooled now. So one of the first thing I did was buy a printer. I didn't have one. Because I had to print out their schedules, their sums, their math, their history, so they could work from home. So I bought a printer, which set me back quite a bit. Then after a week, the cartridges were empty, which set me back again. And what this company did is they're a printing company. So normally you go to the shop and print your stuff, which I would never do because I had no need. But what they did is they changed their business, because what they offered you is a way you could send your documents to them. They printed them and sent them home within a very short period of time. Also, they were local, so they could also deliver it to you, which saved you a lot of money from buying a printer. Because for me, when the children go back to school, I don't need the printer anymore. So I have invested heavily in something I will probably need every half a year. And this would be a perfect solution. And what it would give me is the perspective of being able to have it without having to invest in it. So for me, this company would be very interesting, because in the future, when I would need something, I would most likely visit them and print from there, or still use this same service. And they created a whole new business model, which they would never ever have if the whole coronavirus wouldn't have happened. So this is very interesting.
Yeah, another example from Gal. Bars are closed, restaurants is closed. I realize I have all the restaurant cases right now, actually, but
what a bad life you must have.
I do. The need is still there to have a beer with your friends. We all know the Zoom or the hangout drinks and whatnot. But this is a liquor store chain in the Netherlands, and they have created a platform where you could basically have your pub quiz or a quiz with friends. So for them, it was not about selling additional products. It's about giving a service or giving maybe even better an experience to people who are somewhat related to their product and their business, of course. This is a great example, I think, where nobody they're not making money out of this. They're giving something to the audience or the consumer base. They're interacting with them. The response has been fantastic. It's a great app. It's a great experience. And yes, there will be some drinks that you need to buy, so you will probably go there. So that's a good spin-off effect for them as well. So that's a good example. Once again, is where a large, very traditional business has gone the extra mile, delivered something that they would have never done 3-4 months ago, most likely. But now there was a need, and they have a fantastic solution for that. So kudos to them. Now, we've shown you some examples, some cases, and some inspiration for this, but we also want to become a little bit more pragmatic for our audience. So what we brought with us is 4 tips to become like water. So we'll kick it right off. Well, tip number 1 is probably that recovery starts right now, or it had already started. So if you are in day-to-day survival mode, we want to pull you out of that and make you think a bit about next month or the end of the year also. This is probably what you have been doing, like we have over the last weeks, looking at internal, looking at short term, but tomorrow doesn't win from next week. So you should stick your head out of the grass and start looking at the bigger picture in a way. And if you are not doing this right now, you might be losing out on some of the opportunities that we have brought with us as well. An obvious one is to stay in touch with your consumers or your clients, or at least your audience, right? And that's a bit of a no shit Sherlock a tip. I brought an example where I think has been they've done tremendously well. Pathé, that's the biggest cinema chain here in the Netherlands. They realized they had to shut down their movie theaters, so they offered a free movie a day. They selected the movie, you could watch it for free. We're all bored. We're all at home. Netflix only has so much that I really want to watch. So they had 80% more users over the course of a week, and they still do right now. And the best thing is that this is how you paid. You paid with your data. They have been filling up their database with 80%. They basically doubled their entire client base with individual email addresses. They know which movie you like, which one you don't. So they can even start profiling you as a company. Rumor has it that their CRM guy is looking like that because he's happy. He has a double database for free. They would have never done this 4 months ago, but they saw the need, they jumped in it, and they basically grew out their database. So when things start picking up, you can expect some good emails from them, personalized and ready to go when they open up their theaters again. Another one is that we see a lot of growth, quite an extensive growth in informational searches online, in search. So there's a big need for consumers on additional information, on getting the answers that they're looking for, or they're just simply bored. So there's a gigantic opportunity there for your SEO. So the question you should be asking yourself, your marketing manager, or your performance manager, like, how many pages did you publish last week? Are you out there as a company, as a brand, as a website, as a domain, where you are actually publishing new relevant content for your audience to find? Because the searches are there, the opportunity is there. All you need to do is, well, publish some relevant page. So I think this is a very valuable way to, well, relatively cheap, get and stay in touch with your clients, and keep that going and grow out that business, and see if you can lure them back in other ways. About that roadmap you made, that was a joke we made. You should really consider reprioritizing what you're doing right now. So everything should be off the table that you decided on last year, pre-corona or COVID-19, and you should be looking at what do your clients or your consumers need now. If you are still looking at the old plan, and if you're still talking about targets that you set last year, in my opinion, you're doing something completely wrong, because you should, the world is not the same anymore as it was a few weeks ago.
And especially to come back on that, it's maybe you have to realize that your customer's life has dramatically changed. Your life has changed, our business lives has changed, but your target audience life is like our lives. It's completely changed. So you have to take aboard the fact that you're talking to a whole new person in whole new circumstances, with a whole new life, with whole new insecurities. So you have to redefine who your actual target audience. The same 20 to 35 person you were talking to last week is a new 20 to 35 person right now, because he might be insecure about his job. He might not be able to go to work for a very, very long time. So you have to take all of that on board. So the target audience you had maybe still sort of be the same, but the environment they're in, and the perspective they have, that has totally changed. So you have to take on board, so how can I still relate to this person? And how can my business still help this person? How can I still reach out to them? What can I do for them? How is my product still relevant to them? Because a product that was super relevant like a month ago might be totally irrelevant now. I would have never bought a printer 2 months ago. Now I have, due to my changed circumstances. So you have to think, what opportunities are there for me to grow my business to maybe a whole new audience, or by tweaking, changing my business, like the examples we showed, to the same audience. So that's super important.
Yeah, and it's a moving target, right? So you don't know where they are, what the needs are, or where they will be in 2 months. So the only way to address that is when you're quick and agile enough, I suppose, as a company.
Yeah. So brands, since we're here, let's talk about brands. What we do know from previous crises is that we know that stronger brands recover faster. And what we mean by stronger brands is a brand that's well known, a brand that has done enough about their branding, but also that's recognizable, that continuously tells the same story, that continuously is relevant. And that you can actually do something with branding, even now, but definitely in the future. Here's a small example from bol.com, something we did here at DEPT. It's called the thuisblijvertjes. What we saw within the first, basically, days of the lockdown is that parents, who we are as well, were at home, having to homeschool their children, having to work, and having to do those things at the same time. And you don't always want to put your children in front of the TV or just say, let's go gaming, so you have some time for yourself. You would really like them to do something which helps them learn, develop, and so on. So we said, what if we provide all the children in the Netherlands with free, at least 1 cent, due to technical reasons, free books, so they can stay at home, either do an audiobook, read an ebook. We also had people reading out loud on YouTube. So children would still do something educational. And this is all founded, and that's where the brand comes in, on what we do for bol.com every day, which is help everyday Dutch people live their life to the best of their abilities and see what difficulties they have and how we can help as bol.com. So just to show them and prove them that we understand what their life's all about. Their life had drastically changed because all of a sudden you were at home working, having children there, schooling, and bol.com thought, what can we do which is relevant to them? And what is relevant for parents is having your kids do something educational, but at the same time being able to work. And that's where thuisblijvertjes came from. And this all builds the brand of bol.com, because even in these times of crisis, we're still the same strong brand, driving the same strong message. So in the future, when this crisis is over, and we're in another crisis probably, but of a whole different nature, bol.com will still be the strong, relevant brand. And in good times, they will also be able to find us again.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So research has shown that when you invest in a crisis, you can come out of that at a higher speed or greater success than when you do not invest. Well, that's a bit of a contradiction in a way, because you still need money to invest, but the proof is there. And in our preparation, we realized that we might be heading into two different crises. One is, of course, the impact of Corona on your consumers. Behavior, needs, abilities have been changed, not on free will, but they have been forced. One is, of course, a recession. Chances are extremely high we're heading towards that. So there are multiple factors to leverage. Now, when asked about a recession in 2008, the founder of Walmart said the following. He said, "I thought about it and I decided not to participate." Walmart was, I believe, a very cheap solution as a retail chain in the US. And they came out, they're known as one of the winners, as far as you can have a winner coming out of a recession, but they're seen as a winner coming out of the 2008 crisis, because they had the right service, the right product, the right price, apparently, to rock that out. There is also an opportunity for you as a digital business right now, today, and most likely tomorrow. Right now, we see a lot of digital campaigns that are being paused, delayed, or even canceled. Meanwhile, digital consumption has gone up like a rocket. There is a lot of inventory. And I'm not talking like 4 or 5%. People are spending, close to 60% more on video streaming, on social and whatnot. So people are spending time, they're bored, they're on devices, and they're out there digital. And in this combination, there is a perfect storm for you as a brand or as an organization to remain communicating with them. Right now, we're talking about low CPMs. So that means that for a euro or a dollar, you can reach more people than maybe many years ago. We've seen homepage takeovers on the most published websites, very cheap. And this is a very efficient way to build your audience. It's relatively cheap to do marketing right now. So if you have a right message or a right reason to communicate with your target audience, the time is now. Because your competitor probably is not. It's very cheap, and your audience is out there anyway. Good point to take home is that this will not last much longer. At some point, brands will start picking up on this. Inventory will shrink because we will go back to school, we will go back to work. So things will remain, high or the way it is, but they will slow down. So keep in mind that you have to be, somewhat aggressive and act upon this quick and right now to do so. Tip 3 is that you should, maybe not trust your emotion, but you should trust your data. During the course of the first few weeks of Corona, we've had many clients halting campaigns that were generating revenue, profit, because they were scared or they were in panic mode. So what we did, we've created several dashboards where we actually forecasted the results of campaigns or performance of websites to normal and a pre-corona condition. Now, we have some winners that we were able to adjust. Obviously, we also have several sectors that lost tremendously. Think about travel or leisure. Those are sectors that were hit really hard. Our colleague Chris did a talk on this last week, so on the actual tactics and how to get the best out of your data. You should definitely check that out if you did not already. So what I'm trying to say here is the following. Your data can be a gold mine, but you should be very wary about camouflaged success. And what I mean with that is that if you look at your, let's say, your e-commerce results as a retail player, your chances are pretty high that your e-commerce has been going through the roof. But is that really because you're doing well on e-com, or is that because your stores have been closed? So there's a lot of false success in this situation where you, as a marketeer, need to make sure that you put things in the right perspective. But when you do that, there are gold mines or gold nuggets to be found in your data on the new needs of your consumers or your clients, and anything that's in that ecosystem. Point 4.
Playtime's over.
Yeah, it is.
It's really, So for the last couple of weeks, I think everyone has been playing around with this whole new world we live in, and I think basically for now that has been a very interesting and learning experience. But I think we also have to look at what we really need, and maybe we can go on, because when we were still discovering this new reality and the new normal, or whatever you might call it, we were thinking, what shall we do? And everyone was running around like crazy. And what we discovered is that the way we set up our business and the way we do things has changed, but it leads to great results, because what we've done is we've tried, we've tested, we've launched, we've iterated, and then we made it bigger. For instance, the bol.com ID you saw just now, we did it in basically a week, 2 weeks, something we would never, ever have been able to do like 3 months ago. And we did it because our client, first of all, was happy with the ID, because that's key, but also because we were much quicker in moving. And I think this is something that for the future we should hold on to, because what happened here at DEPT is that we took more time to look at the client need, the customer's need, and we try to think, how can we actually help them? And by not going by briefings and not looking at like a year plan or a 2-year plan or a 5-year plan, you come up with ideas that are really valuable to the customer, and it really impacts their lives. I think the Gazella thing we showed is the same. It impacted the business, and it impacted the customer's life, because customers want a cycle. If you don't have a bike, you can't go to a store. You need one. So by setting up a business like that and testing and trying and moving really fast, it gives great opportunities to businesses. So if, from my part, I would really, really love it that we hold on to this entrepreneurial way of working, and looking at customers and changing the business basically. What
I also think is that cash is king. So there's no room for risk, most likely in the coming, let's say, the foreseeable future. What is a good example on the bol.com, the Pathé example, the Gazelle case? You can build business cases around these solutions. So it's not they're not pure brand campaigns. It has to do with a full funnel perspective. There's some e-commerce in there, or there's some lifetime value in there as well. Filling up your database for maybe €1 per email. That is a very good deal that you can get. So when you are taking these tips back home to your office or to your manager or where, try to talk, about the business that these solutions can provide or secure, or maybe, even prepare, when things start to open up again. And one thing that I've learned over the last weeks is that, like we said, there is a moving target on consumers. So why not reach out to your clients or your consumers and ask them for help, right? So there's some examples where you can see where companies have started a dialogue or some small test. I think maybe the thuisblijvertjes was part of that. Is that you want to have a conversation with your clients? What is it that you need right now? And instead of agencies going back into their laboratory, working on something for weeks, months, testing it, doing research on data that is not relevant right now because things have changed. They're small iterations. See what helps. See what works, and take it from that point on. But do not forget to talk to your clients. How many of you have called 20 clients over the last 2 months saying, hey, what are your needs? Instead of, can we pay the bill? So I think that's a missed opportunity to have a dialogue, not a monologue, with your client base, and see what's out there for them, what they're missing right now, because that is right there your opportunity to jump in with a small small solution or whatever it is, and take it from there.
It's also, we can build on the society we're in right now, because every day we're reminded of the fact that we have to do this together. I mean, to stay healthy, to recover, we have to do this together. We have to sit far further apart, take notice of each other. We've grown accustomed to helping each other out more than we had in the previous time. We were much more social society than we were, even though we're all at home, sitting in our home and avoiding each other. And I think this is something we should hold on to in the future. I mean, our customers value if we do something for them. We see this, and bad advertising shows clips of people helping each other in video screens and doing it all over and over again, the same advertising. This is what we do, this is what we did. But real companies actually do meaningful things. And I think what we've learned is that customers value this. I think Pathé, the raving reviews from Pathé show this. I think the raving reviews from thuisblijvertjes also shows this. Same goes for the Gal en Gal example. People value it if you actually do something meaningful for them. And you can still make money of it. I mean, and you can still grow your business from it. So I think this is something we should really hold on to in the future, is more togetherness, doing meaningful stuff. And not because you have some mantra or something written on the wall which you hold on to, but because you actually listened and talked to people and thought about what they actually need, and you acted upon it.
Do you also think that this situation we're all in allows brands to take risk more than before?
Yeah, I think so. I think everyone has to take risks. Basically, the number one reason everyone had to take risk is because most businesses went down really fast. So we had to act quicker and we had to take more risks. Usually from our side, as an example, proactive business was always difficult because proactive business takes away hours from active business, which means it costs money and then you have to wait and hope that it actually works out. Now we do both, and we do proactive more, and we see it working. And I think more companies should do this. I mean, it's an investment and it's a risk maybe, but it's also a way to open up new businesses to make more money. And I think the same goes for the digital world. You gave these examples of that inventory is cheaper now. You could say, well, I don't want to move. But I think it's a very smart idea to actually move because you're faster and more known than the competitors. Yeah.
It's interesting, right? That I mean, this is the first time that everybody is hit by a crisis. Consumers are being forced through digital. It's shoved down their throat in a way. Even my even my parents. It took me, a lot of empathy and patience, but I got them on a hangout. That would have never happened before. So digital is now, is now a key part in our day-to-day. Well, I think it's like operating behavior. And I think a lot of people are starting to realize they kind of like that. So there's a high factor of, let's say, a New Year's resolution effect here. Is where, how long will this really last? I mean, every end of December, I say I go to the gym, and we all know that it's not happening. But nonetheless, I am taking away some key learnings as a professional, but also personally, like what I really like. I kind of re-evaluated the value anyway. But digital is in the center for at least my experience. So that's a good point. All right, we're slowly going to be wrapping this up. So these were 4 tips on being like water, but we did not want to shut this down without the remark that being successful in these situations, or being like water, is not easy. It's not an easy walk down Sesame Street. This is a hard reality. This is all about training hard, working harder than the company next to you. But we do believe that if you take these tips with you as a mindset, challenge your colleagues, because we're also still very stuck in the way how things were. We think you should be adapting to how things are becoming in the near future. So with that said, last slide. Connect with us if you want. I'm gonna slowly move towards the phone to see if we have any questions coming in. Yes, we do. So the question, you kind of had it already, but how has DEPT changed these weeks for the better?
For the better, yeah. I think for us, we're obviously a digital agency, so we do a lot of things digitally. But we were still also very traditional in the sense that we still did a lot of meetings. We were talking a lot about doing things. And we were, like I said, the example I said, I think the first and foremost example is the fact that we did a lot of things that were within our business. Yes, we thought about new ways of doing things, and yes, we came up with great ideas for clients every now and then. I think we were very good at that, but looking back on it now, I think we could have been better. I mean, we could have spotted more. And also, I think freeing up time to do proactive things, that's super important. I think, and that goes for us, but I think that goes for every business, is make sure you have plenty of time for people to actually act upon ideas, think of new things, present new things, go to clients, go out there and make sure that they're interested. And we showed a couple of examples of the things that went really well. Yes, there were also 20 ideas that never happened, which we put time and energy in, but we learned from those. I mean, we learned what works, we learned what didn't work. Sometimes you stumble upon something, developing something for a client, and then it doesn't happen, but it's maybe can be changed and tweaked and be suitable for something else. But I think this new energy of trying things and failing, and then trying again and succeeding and working really hard, I think that's key to what has changed. And the fact that we don't have a lot of meetings anymore, which could last a bit shorter. For you?
Yeah, well, I think it's about the efficiency, which I really like. The fact that clients are open to take some risk. There are less conversations and more decisions, right? So there was a need for speed, and that is something that I know we will lose at some point. But I look back on the last weeks on a very positive note on that side, because there was a very aggressive need to push forward, and that is something that if you do well in small steps, you can really make a difference, and put your company or your brand in a good way. And like I said, the opportunities are there right now to score.
Yeah.
So you should not be defending what you've had and be forced to protect the old way of doing things.
Yeah.
You should probably be attacking the new ways in a way. It's cool to see how companies are evolving themselves. It's challenging, but it's a nice way, and it's a nice way how things are being forced in the right direction. So that I like. Yeah. All right, we're going to be rounding this up. Thank you very much for tuning in, and this DEPT Talk Live from Valentijn, myself. Be safe, be healthy, and be like water.
Be like water.
Thank you.
Thanks.